What's up, everyone? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. It's your boy 𝘞𝘩𝘢𝘵, and as you can see by the title, today we're going to be talking about the book Fabulosity, What It Is and How to Get It by Kimora Lee Simmons. And I was pretty much drawn to this book. I believe I saw someone posting about it on Pinterest or something like that, or maybe X, and I was just like, it's an interesting read. I've always known about her. Couldn't escape her in black media in the early 2000s, but I never really knew about her in her life as a person. But so I looked it up on Amazon, and it was like maybe one, but I'm just going to say 5 because I don't want to be lying. But I do believe I got the last one available. And the book was released in 2006, so I was like, might as well get it. And I got it, and I finally completed reading it, and I can say that it's very much an enjoyable and educating read. Unexpectedly, I was not expecting to learn the things that I've learned in this book, but we're going to get more into that later in the video. My introduction to Kimora Lee Simmons was basically black media. I always seeing her in commercials and having a mom that wore baby fat, and also, especially the Rush Card commercial. I actually was trying to look for one on eBay, see if someone had one on there, because I just want one just for keepsakes. But yeah, and I'm still kind of uncertain with how I pieced together that she was part of baby fat. I don't remember recognizing how I knew that she was basically the owner and creator of baby fat, because some of the ads that I've seen, I don't recall seeing her, but maybe I'm just overthinking it. Yeah, but I only really known her as I got older as a businesswoman and designer, but I never really knew that she was a model herself until I read the book. And she's done some very dope projects and has been modeling since she was the age of 13, 14 in high fashion runways. She refused to be known as the wife of person. She actually tried living and being a stay-at-home mom after having her children, and she didn't enjoy it at all, which led to the creation of baby fat. Okay, now we're gonna get into the book. And the book itself is more of a psychological self-help read from the early 2000s, and is basically for people who are in their early 20s. But with the knowledge that's being given and shared, you can always, regroup yourself and reroute your life trajectory. But it's best to use your free slate, your clean slate, which you have in your 20s, most of us. You use that to build and guide the life that you actually want to have, without having to go back and be like, I need to redo this, I have to redo this, that. There's not much damage that has been done, so there's not much that you have to go back and recorrect. So yeah, this book talks about fashion, confidence, and even financial management, and many more other topics that I very much think that everyone would enjoy if you just take the time to read it. It's also full of subtle flexes. I'm gonna list out them to you right now. On the first line of the book, she says, "With the first checking account I opened, I wrote myself a check for $1 million." Then on page 34, she said, "The first big job I landed was at Chanel. I went to the casting, met Karl Lagerfeld, booked the couture show, and closed the show as the bride." Mind you, she was 14 when this happened. Page 63, she says, "I've been financially independent, not to mention very busy since I was 13. I mean, a lot of people didn't even know who Cavalli was when I was rocking his $3,000 jeans in the early 1990s. Mind you, it's people that I grew up around that used to brag about $500 jeans, $200 jeans from Buckle, and she out here rocking $3,000 jeans. Crazy. When I first started making my own money, free of parental guidance and in several different currencies at once. That was on page 114. Page 117, she says, I think going over numbers is more boring than watching my Chanel Pink Mink nail varnish dry. Not nail polish, nail varnish. And it's Chanel. Page 229. It started at the BMW convertible I bought myself at age 16. And I also said that this book is very comparable, perhaps comparable, to 𝘍𝘢𝘣𝘶 book, How to Build a Fashion Icon. Basically, it's you thinking that you're about to get the cheat code to success in fashion, but you end up being forced to learn about you and learning that to be an icon or to be a fashionista or to be fabulous, you're forced to realize that it's in you instead of on you. She even has a moment in Law number 8 where she speaks on building up your persona and leveraging off that so that you aren't the girl that gets paid for $20 a day while everyone else around you gets 100 times as much. This is very similar to 𝘍𝘢𝘆's lesson where he says, don't be a $75 girl. Basically where he talks about this lady that used to do hair for $75 and she refused to like up her price because everybody loved her because of the work that she did for $75. The power of a dollar lessens depending on the economy, especially if everything is going up. Cost of living is rising, this and that. So if you're only getting paid $75 over a series of years, you're setting yourself to make a certain amount of money that doesn't change. It doesn't elevate with the change and the elevation of prices of things and that nature. So you're forcing yourself into this tax bracket that's not going to be sustainable for you in the future and maybe you currently. You're doing it for convenience of your customers, but you're inconveniencing yourself. She talks about that as well, like as we get deeper into the book. That's actually one of my favorite laws of hers, but we're going to get into that. But now, speaking of my favorite laws, I'm going to talk about my favorite laws. And starting with law number 2. Law number 2 is Le Fric C'est Chic. And it's basically about embracing and exhibiting the qualities that make you different. And Chic, who made the song Le Fric C'est Chic, were denied entry to Studio 54 after being invited by Grace Jones, even after having a #1 disco song before Le Fric was released. And it was basically like a response to them not being allowed to come into Studio 54. And they basically said like the hook was supposed to actually be F off. But instead they went with freak out. So it's kind of like a subtle diss. And I actually learned about that in Grace Jones' books, I'll Never Write My Memoirs, where she talked about like Studio 54 and her experience and how much she misses it. And they're actually talking about bringing Studio 54 back. I think it's Valentino bringing Studio 54 back for one night only. And I hope they invite the OGs that used to run Studio 54. And I want Grace Jones to make an appearance. But back to the book. As I got more into the law, for myself, I defined it as Kimora talks about stepping into her individuality, taking pride in not being typical or average, showing up for yourself without looking for acceptance from others, and her path of being a model. And my favorite takeaways from this law was on page 27 when she says, thank God you're not average. The average is safe. Average is comfortable. But average is boring and totally not fabulous. And a lot of us do sometimes pigeonhole ourselves into being average because we don't want to be fierce. We don't want to overpower our mentors. We don't want to overpower those who have come before us, our ancestors. And in a way, it's because they mentally and unintentionally, sometimes intentionally, make us have this mindset of we have to be humble. We have to bow down to everyone and not know our true worth. Especially in the South, like, it's always humble. My grandma always talks about being humble. And I just be like, being humble is not a good thing. You shouldn't be humble all the time now. That's why so much self-doubt is like put into us, and like I'm reevaluating myself and be like, this is why I doubt this, I doubt that, and I'm fearful to do this, take this leap of faith, because I'm always told, be humble, be humble. And yeah. But another one where she talks about on page 32, when other kids did ballet or gymnastics, I did modeling. And that made me just want to give a shout out to all the parents out there that help their children with finding their passion, even if it's unconventional. Like, nowadays, we have a lot of parents who are supportive of their children because they experienced not being supported. And a lot of times, parents, if you're not into things that they were into, which is probably like sports or stuff like that, they stop trying to figure out what it is that you actually like. And then if you introduce them to like things that you like and it's unconventional, like you're a boy and you like to dance, you want to be a rapper, you want to be a singer, they are very less likely to support you in that sense. And it's because they don't like see it happening for you, or they haven't seen it happen before. They feel like it's a 1 in a million thing. Like, don't nobody from here come up off that. And they, especially in the South, they automatically like refer to sports. They want to put you in sports instead of figuring out all the things that you are talented in. Like, so many men from the South are very great at singing. They're very great at dancing, but I don't feel like that's very much like nurtured. A lot of it is just, yeah, he can do that. It stays in the church, or it stays at the cookouts. But it doesn't like go further than that. Like, they know that their children are talented in that sense, but they don't nurture that. They don't invest into that. They're very much rather push them into sports instead of nurturing those other God-given talents as well. That they're probably more likely better than at. On page 33, she talks about how she got a lot of work from being the one who Karl Lagerfeld handpicked from the crowd. And that's another subtle flex, actually, that I could have added to the list. And it just also proves to me that who you work with matters, and you don't have to be a collaborative whore. And that's something that I've always talked about. It's a term that I say is that, you know, being a collaborative whore is, it's something that I very much don't, why do I keep saying very much? Something that I absolutely am straying away from. A lot of people just collab just because they have the same interests, or they collab just because someone has a camera or equipment that they don't. To me, that's very bad for your brand, because not everyone understands your story. They don't understand where you're trying to go with this. They don't understand who you are. They just see an opportunity to work, and they want to work. My other favorite law is law number 4, and it's titled "Throw Away the Manual." And the theme is basically assert your way into the field you aspire to work in, which is very fitting. It hits home for me because I am a college graduate. I graduated with a bachelor's of science in media entertainment arts, focused in video arts. And you know, all of the work that I did in that field, but I don't work in my field. I'm currently working in the food service industry, actually. And in some ways, I'm still learning about the entertainment world through that. Like, I'm making comparisons based off the things that I do, like the fast-pacedness and many other things. But I'm also doing things on the side that keep me in my field. But in a sense, that's my way of inserting myself into the field that I aspire to work in. But back to the book. I said in my own words that this law is basically about never knowing how you're going to get put into the game. Your journey can only be defined through experience and in retrospect when taking the unconventional route. And like I was saying, I'm pretty much taking the unconventional route. I don't have people in my life, well, I would say in my family, that have taken the route that I am taking. And some ways I wish I could get advice from them. There's no advice better than coming from people who, you know, have birthed you, or people that have been in your life all your time. Sometimes you believe that they always will have your best interest, but in some ways they can also be holding you back, even if they do like have roots into the industry that you're trying to get in. Because of the things that they've seen and things that they've experienced, they want to make sure that you do not experience that by nurturing you, not necessarily trying to be mean or, you know, spiteful, but they don't want you to go through what they went through. And a lot of parents really don't realize like how harmful that is to children. Well, children that are now adults, but they always see you as their child. But yeah, so I'm taking a leap of faith when it comes to my career and pretty much my life. I don't have anyone to look up to around me that basically showed me this is what success looks like and this is what you want to do, this, that. So now let's get into my favorite takeaways from this law. She said, if you start dwelling on somebody else's genius, it'll become a huge tidal wave of doubt. And there are billions of ways to become successful, and everyone has a unique path. The more you focus on other moves, you stray away from your own. And that's pretty much self-explanatory. I'm pretty much sure that everyone knows that. You can't be looking at everyone else's way of moving. You can't be looking at everyone else's pockets. You can't be looking at what God has blessed everyone else with, because you are not them and they are not living your story. That is not how your story is supposed to go. You basically have to take your own path. You have to figure out like what it is that God has for you, what it is that you truly desire out of life, not what you see and base everyone else around your age. This is what we all should have by this age, because that's not true. That's not fact. And you may be dealing with certain limitations and other things that have made it literally impossible for you to have those type of things. But you can always work and make sure that you get what it is that you actually desire. And it may not come at the time that you are expecting for it to, or the time that you truly wish that it will, but it will come. Delayed, but never denied. Another takeaway that I loved from this chapter was when she said, I personally don't know the technicalities of sewing. So creatives in my position do have a good time and get by without a degree by relying on kids who went to school. And I can relate to this because I also don't know like full technicalities when it comes to video arts or, you know, like editing and things of that nature. But me studying video arts helped me like learn a bit enough to directly communicate what it is that I'm expecting, what I want, and also being able to realize that you have to be patient, or to know like what should be the expected return for like certain things. And I will say that me getting a video arts degree has definitely like helped me as a creative, and I just really can't wait to see myself be more on the production side of things and do more works that are that I can be full on passionate with other people who like see their work as their children, people that take it that seriously and they refuse to like let things go wrong. Like, I just really want to work with super passionate people on a very passionate project. Like, I want to do more documentaries. I just want to do more. And I want to work with people that are very serious about their things. But yeah, I would say that me getting a degree has actually helped me like communicate all the things that I expect, and help me like learn from other people's point of view of what it's going to take to like get those things done. But it also allows me to be calm and trust in other people's work, and letting them do what they do, which is what she talks about in the chapter as well, is that she trusts her team and she lets them do what they do after she just communicates what it is that she wants, and she approves it or disapproves it. Either way, she gets what she wants. And law 6, be a woman warrior. The theme is basically activate your incredible female power to deal with adversity. So another thing I forgot to say when I talked about the comparison between 𝘍𝘢𝘆 book and this book, 𝘍𝘢𝘆 book is more gender neutral, and Fabulosity by Kimora Lee Simmons is more, for the feminine, the women, actually. She talks about female power and femininity a lot in this book, but that doesn't stray away from men also being able to learn from this book. With common sense, you can take away like the gender and all of that and just learn what you need to learn. Like, but yeah, in this law, she's saying that you have to know that you can be a woman and feminine, but a boss or masculine when you need to be. And one of my favorite takeaways from this is when she says, be a lady 99% of the time, but in that 1% instance when you need to be it. And she also says, we're all so politically correct these days. We need people to shake things up and be more provocative from time to time. And this also reminds me of 𝘍𝘢𝘆. He's currently on the season of Fashion Runway, but he was also recently a judge on Legendary, and people despised him because of how direct and how he shook up the table. He didn't agree with everything. He always had constructive criticism, and sometimes it would come off as very itchy, and people couldn't really like handle it. A lot of people would leave in tears on Fashion Runway. A lot of people have walked off in tears because of the things that he said, and he said multiple times that this is just a persona. This is not who I am in real life. Many white people get away with it all the time. If you look at Simon Cowell, if you look at who that man that the chef man, he's always mean. From Hell's Kitchen, he's always mean. It's just a anywho, he gets away with it because he's white, and it makes it seem like he's a professional. He's this, he's that. It in a way it elevates his critiques and things of that nature. But when Law does it, he's a bitch. He doesn't even have the experience to do this, that, which is not true. But yeah, that was also very similar to that. But also as a woman, I've seen from my own eyes by being on sets and things of that nature, men do play with women a lot. And honestly, they make it seem like they don't know what they're talking about, or they're very mean or rude, or they just completely dismiss everything that they say. But women are the most attentive and intentional people on the planet. They are the best people to work with, and that's why my other favorite takeaway is when she says women can multitask the hell out of a situation. Because working with women is so much better. Like, they naturally care. They're naturally attentive, and they're seeing, like, they can feel things. They have women's intuition. They can feel, they can see, and they're observative. But men, they just work, and they don't even think about, like, in the moment. They don't even think about what's gonna become, what's gonna lead up to this. Most men don't. And it's just the truth. Especially like me experiencing like the difference between working with women and the difference between working with men. Me working with women has been completely beneficial to me because I grew up around a lot of women. I understand them a lot better. With men, the opportunities that I have with working with men has helped me like become better at understanding men outside of myself, and the way that they think. Also men that weren't like grown up around like a lot of feminine energy, but the feminine energy that I was around, like a lot of the women that I was around, they also were very like masculine too when they had to be, which is what she's talking about. Like, I was pretty much raised around and by women warriors. Every woman that I've been around were the lead of the house. They held the weight. So yeah. But me working with men has shown me like the difference, and like how they don't think about this, they don't think about that, but I do. And it's because I've worked with women and I've learned so much from women. And yeah, I would always prefer working with women, honestly. Law 7. Take control of those bills. And the theme is control any money you have to the last dime. And this chapter, law, is pretty much about the importance of managing your finances, and, you know, also realizing how important ownership is. I didn't really like have any favorite takeaways from this besides like her talking about like credit. I didn't really have any favorite takeaways from this specifically, but I just really love that she talked about like the finance aspect of being fabulous and being a very fashionable and iconic person, because you can look like you have this, have that, but a lot of people that try to achieve the look, they go broke while trying to achieve the look. And she basically like showing and talking about like how you have to have money put up. Like, you gotta also be in control of your money. You gotta know like where this is going and how much this is and how much that is. You have to know about credit. You have to avoid these department store cards. And this is coming from someone with, you know, their own, well, they had their own like Visa card, things of that nature. They're telling you like you have to avoid this and that. These decisions that will completely take you into a financial deficit. And also talking about like ownership and like how you need to own something. Like, there's something that you need to own. Like, these things need to be in your name. She talks about like how her husband has his things, but she was also been having her own way before she even knew who her husband was. And that's one of the reasons why he had a liking to her, because she had her own. And yeah, it's always dope to hear people in fashion talk about like finances, because there's so many people, especially like people that are hood rich, go broke trying to achieve a look, and it keeps them from elevating. because all their money goes into their look and never really into their lifestyle or their health and things of that nature. And my last favorite law is law 10, dress like you might run into your worst enemy. And the theme is basically expressing your fabulous, feminine, sexy self through your fashion. And I said in my own words that this law is basically about you being the main advertisement, and you must always look worth buying into. And my favorite takeaways from this was basically when she says, a customer believes that by buying into him or her, she will too catch some of that success. And this takes me back to like going to concerts and like buying merch or buying like anything that an artist is selling. For example, Beyonce with Sacred. We're going to buy into that because we know that she has very long hair. We know that she has very long, healthy hair, colored hair that's been colored for years, and is healthy. So we're going to buy into that because, I mean, look at her. Look at her. Look at her hair. We're going to buy into anything that she sells because we too believe that we will have the long, luscious hair. And even though some of that is jeans, she's literally Creole, but it gives you hope regardless in the product. And I love the little parts of the book where she gives on the side notes, where she gives like styling tips. And the styling tip number 1 really stuck with me, and it's basically about like making an organizing system before you even worry about what's in your closet. Containerize your clothes, spurge on dividers and organizers. And she also says if you can't see your clothes, you'll probably never wear them, which is fact. And if you know me, my room is pretty much a closet itself. Like, this is a very, very small room, so I don't see a lot of my clothes. A lot of my clothes is in containers and organized, but I don't see them all. But when I went to college, I had my first, well, not my first closet, but my first closet in years. And I was able to see like everything that I own, and it made it so much easier for me to like piece together outfits and things, and always like mix around and shape outfits based on other outfits, but they still end up become like their own unique look. And I just really enjoyed that and appreciated that aspect of like being able to see all my clothes. And that's why when I move, I'm literally gonna get an extra bedroom just for extra closet space, depending on how big the closet is. I'm sorry, that's just how it has to go. But yeah. And she also talks about like how like if you don't have time or the space to like dig, take pictures of pieces paired together. And I also used to do that too, even with the closet space. I would put together like outfits at the beginning of the semester and just say this is what I'm gonna wear and how I'm gonna wear it, this and that. And then I would keep a folder in my camera roll and I would look back and refer to it. That's pretty much all my favorite laws. It's pretty much a lot of like things that I could talk about in this book, which when it comes to like my favorite laws. One thing that I didn't really like say that was my favorite law, but she talks about children a lot and how like she tries her best to like nurture them and figure out what it is that they like, and not necessarily harp on like passing down this, passing down that, even though that is an option. She wants them to truly figure out who they are and what they like, and keeping them healthy and things of that nature. And that's something that I look at as someone who doesn't want to be a parent, but I really take pride in caring for the youth, which is like with the youth in my family too, like my younger cousins. I look at them and I just be like, I see myself in you, and I see things, even if I don't see myself in them, like I see things that should be nurtured. Like I pay attention to what they're innately great at and things that they take a liking to, and without them even noticing that I'm realizing this, I give them things and teach them things that in a way will help them like get a more of a feel of what it's like to truly figure out or be in something that they like. And I feel like that's something that every adult should do, not only just for their children, but for all the children in the world. Like, the children are actually our future. And do you see how the children have always been our future? And do you see how the children who are now adults and are ruling the world, do you see how they are doing us? So if you don't really want to like repeat that, I feel like you really have to nurture the children, the people that come before you. Well, the people that come after you, because there's going to come a time where they're going to have to take care of us or make decisions that concern us. And if we ain't care about them now, they ain't going to be caring about us then. But yeah, definitely can't wait to like do more of that, or like to like share more experiences and give back, like she talks about in this book too. The art of philanthropy and giving back to your children and the youth in general. So I haven't done this in any other of my book reviews, but I'm actually going to share the list in here. And I have a suggestions list, and it's basically about like film, fashion, or any other reads that were mentioned in this book that the author is basically like suggesting you to check out. And I'm actually going to check them out, because why not? She says the book 7 Spiritual Laws of Success was introduced to her by her husband, and she said that we should check it out. There are 2 actresses she mentioned, Lauren Bacall and Rita Hayworth. I remember her saying something about like when you are trying to like find your feminine energy or be powerful, that's something that you should check out. She also talks about a specific film called Breakfast at Tiffany's. I don't remember exactly what the reference was to this film, but I just remember it being mentioned. She also talks about Judith Lieber. I believe that's a brand. They have purses and things of that nature. I don't really like know much about it. That's one brand she mentioned that I didn't really like know anything about. She also mentioned how she says that she's basically the reason why the Manolo Timberland boot situation, she's the reason why it exists, because she used to get them custom, and now like everyone is selling them, everyone's selling dupes of it, this and that nature, and she says that she's the reason why. Also, words. I also have a list of words that I learned from reading the book. Like, I've always kept like a list of unfamiliar words, and I put them on like index cards, and I don't really refer back to them like I should, but I'm going to make it a habit too. But the first word is chutzpah, and it's about extreme self-confidence or audacity. The next word is boudoir, and it's woman's bedroom or private room. The next word is flu, and it's basically blurriness, haze, or view-altering experiences. Svelte is a word for slender and elegant. Meritorious is to be deserving of reward or praise. Inviolable is likely to arouse envy. I've never heard that word being used, but it makes sense. That's cool, basic. Ostentatious, this means to be designed to attract or impress. So yeah, that's all that I have with, everything that I've learned and all my takeaways from Fabulosity by Kimora Lee Simmons. I do believe this is a very great read. I did really enjoy reading this book. I learned a lot more than I expected to. But yeah, I'm actually going to be doing more of these, extending the playlist. I actually have a whole playlist of me talking about like books and things. So please check that out as well. If you have any book suggestions for me, I would suggest you comment some. I'm very interested in books similar to these. I like to hear people talk about their lives. I'm not really a fan of nonfiction at all, but I love a self-help book. I'm not gonna lie. I know they say it's pretentious and this and that to like be a self-help reader, this and that, but I don't care. I need something that's gonna help me in real life. And I never get tired of like reading the same like takes, because when it's coming from a different person, it gives you a different view. Which is why the comparison I made with 𝘍𝘢𝘵's book and this book, pretty much the same book, just different takes. Hers is more feminine and more of, you know, from the aspect of a woman, and 𝘍𝘢𝘵 is from the aspect of a man. And yeah, it was enjoyable. So yeah, if you have any recommendations, just please list them below. I'm not gonna say I'm interested in anything that you suggest, but I'm open to it. Like, if you have fiction that you believe that I would take interest in, please comment that as well, because I do want to open my mind and not be forced into just all the real life, nonfiction, business, self-help, and all of that. So if you have any suggestions that you truly believe that I would actually enjoy, comment them below. And that's all I have for this video. Thank you all for watching, and bye.